Esteemed ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, dear conservative friends, and everybody who is listening today. I'm especially delighted that one of my first trips after the grievances in the darkest days of the pandemic led me to Poland, a country well known for its beauty and hospitality, which has always stood shoulder to shoulder in many efforts with my home country, Hungary. I feel myself honored by the invitation of Hungary's friends at the Order Juris to mark the inauguration of the Collegium Intermarium, and I have to tell you that it is my true pleasure to deliver this address today at an event that carries the promise of a conservative academic future. The people who are joining us today set themselves the ambitious goal to strengthen the field of tertiary education, and let me tell you that this venture is warmly welcomed in my home country, Hungary. Some of you might think that nowadays conservative values are highly endangered, that we are shrinking in numbers. I can assure you that this is not true. What better indication could be found than the conservative spirit is on march once again than that we inaugurate this university today. I pray that God may grant this institution long years of dedicated service for the strengthening of our values and make the voice of a silent majority be heard all across Europe. In this effort, our countries share a common ambition. Since here it is unnecessary to highlight the merits of your spirit, I would like to share with you some thoughts on the importance of preserving it before we take a look at the special relations between our nations and the role of our region in Europe. Some of us were born in an era where they could witness what the democratic revolution means for a country. At the end of the 80s, the people of Poland and Hungary both were united in their endeavor to liberate themselves from an oppressing regime that ruled more than long enough over Central Europe. With the respect of the rights of individuals, the upholding of the values of our history, and the everlasting idea of patriotism, our nations actively participated in bringing the evil empire, as Ronald Reagan put it so frankly, to its knees. And today we are lucky enough to see the cherished achievements based on Christian values and commanded by the ideals of our forefathers, working and building a better future to the generations to come. In this blessing, our nations join each other like they did so often in so many revolutionary efforts throughout their history to champion the cause of freedom for Europe and its nations. I'm sorry to say that what I was talking about is not shared view all across Europe. Today we see the clashes of two worlds in the European arena. As the powers meet each other, we are approaching the brink of a new era. The liberal ideas are challenging our everyday life by intervening in our very private beliefs. The endorsers of these ideas believe that the world must conform to theirs. They want a framework in which only they have the right to tell us what to do, what to sing, and how to feel. And through all of this, they try to determine how to live. They disregard the individual spirit for which we fought so viciously and make an attempt to fully suppress all the diverging views in societal and economic matters as well. On the other side, there are the conservative forces who constantly adhere to the dry, dull, and sometimes even allegedly boring foundations of civic merits that in their simplicity create prosperity, security, and opportunity. I think it's needless to say on which side our countries with an extensive Jewish-Christian heritage have to stand in the intensifying conflict. But if we stand up together proudly for our preferred values in the debate, we can show unity that projects strength. We have to pursue our quest in the arena of politics, in the civic society, and yes, even in education. In a globalized world, we need diversity in culture and education as well, with due respect towards differences resulting from that. Therefore, I'm more than happy that Collegium Intermarium set its sails. In an academic field that is dominated by liberal mainstream thoughts, true that it provides opportunity only for the minds alike and cuts the ways of creative and promising academics, it's a breeze of fresh air to have an institution like this. I wish to see this university as the first fortress in Middle Europe through which we can claim the rightful place of Christian democratic motivated values in the academic world. Ladies and gentlemen, there is an unpleasant tendency in the EU to consider the countries that joined after the millennium as secondary entities. Poland and Hungary have to stand up against this, now and in the future as well. We have already shown the world that our national policies work. And because of that, we live in the age of unprecedented growth, rising living standards, more weight in the different international cooperations, and a stronger economical position in Europe despite the devastating pandemic. This all signalizes that Central Europe, and with it Poland and Hungary, have become the mainspring of development in this region. Therefore, we have to think of our achievements proudly and see that this would not have been possible if we would not pursue conservative politics and would not consider families and children as the keys to our future. We achieved our success because with our diverse background, we were the harsh advocates of the Christian democratic revolution across all Europe. I'm sure that our efforts will bear fruits if we will preserve our steadfast positions and remain true to our common values like nation, family, and Christian unwavering. Probably the most famous Polish man in the world, Karol Wojtyła, also raised his voice for these values. He lived through Nazism and communism before he became known in the world under the name Pope John Paul II. Throughout his life, he embodied the already mentioned Polish solidarity that he took on the world stage. He understood that the claims of human dignity transcend the claims of any government, and the fact that transcendent right can come only from transcendent source. He knew that there can be achieved more by prayers of simple men and women than by all the power owned by statesmen in the world. In this belief, he worked diligently and passionately for understanding and peace between the nations. He knew maybe better than anyone that only by guaranteeing the freedom of the nations can we nurture the goal of peace. He said once, "Freedom consists not in doing what we like, but in having the right to do what we ought." Both the people of Poland and of Hungary know well what that means and what it takes to claim this right back if it was taken. That historical heritage is one reason besides our conservative mindset which unites our nations, as it did back in the Revolution of Hungary in 1848-49, when many Polish officers fought in the lines of the Hungarian freedom fighters for liberty and dignity of Hungary. Let us not forget the opening of the Hungarian borders for Poles fleeing the Soviet German oppression on 1939. This year, once again, we shall remember the struggling and many heroic moments of two freedom-loving nations together. 65 years ago, Polish workers roamed the streets in Poznan to seek freedom and the freedom's dream. Their desperation that was fueled by their hunger, the oppression and tiredness of any inhuman system led to an uprising. The retaliation of the Soviet regime was cold and ruthless. However, the bravery of the Polish workers gave the Hungarian counterparts strength to follow their example. The burning desire of freedom was felt as intensely in Hungary as it characterized the freedom movements in Poland. This made possible to try to claim our freedom back. In this effort, in 1956, Polish and Hungarian revolutionaries joined each other in Budapest at the statue of the Polish hero of the Hungarians, József Ben, to fight for the long-taken freedom. In those days, Polish flags were waving in the streets of the Hungarian capital, and the Polish university students who were present in Budapest joined in Hungarian friends in singing the Polish anthem after the Hungarian, as a sign of togetherness. The feeling of solidarity forged a strong bond between our nations, and our historical relationship evolved into an undeniable, everlasting friendship. And when the grip of the Soviet Union on Hungary became tight, and people could see that their attempt to liberate their home country failed, the help came once again from Poland. We look back at solemn gratitude. These experiences will help us today to raise our voices together once again when it comes to the question of freedom and the future of Europe. After looking back on our history, let's take a moment to turn our head to present and future. We Polish and Hungarians stand for Europe and still believe in the strong cooperation. We believe that the real strength of our continent lies in nations that are keen to preserve their identities. This is the cornerstone of the idea of freedom-loving nations like we are. Today, the inseparable ties through well-functioning diplomatic relations, a side-by-side approach in the Union, and common goals in the 30-years-old Visegrad cooperation bind Poland and Hungary together. To buttress this political progress, we shall build an ever-closer network in the fields of civil society and education to present the world our aforementioned positions. Collegium Intermarium, we wish you all the best for your endeavor. And as a closing my speech, allow me my final remark on our relations. We Hungarians could long say from ourselves that we, in the legendary person of Ferenc Puskás, had the best football player in the 20th century. Now we are once again proud that the Hungarian team managed to qualify for the European Championship. But I guess our chances would be a lot better if Robert Lewandowski, one of the best players of our time, would support the Hungarian team, even if only with his left foot. Collegium Intermarium, thank you so much for the opportunity, and good luck.